Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. This is a short piece asking Kellyanne Conway, who used to work in the White House when Trump was president, what she thought of the special election in New York 3rd. That's the seat that Santos held when he was expelled from Congress. I think it's ridiculous to expel somebody without due process. In other words, we've seen all the evidence. We think he's guilty, so we're going to expel him. Well, that's not due process, but I digress. This is her opinion on why the Republicans lost this special election. Now, this November, of course, there's going to be another election in this seat. And the reason why I'm so interested, and you should be as well, is it gives you an idea what the Republicans are thinking when it comes to congressional seats. And it's not good. And Kellyanne has some excellent suggestions. And I also live in upstate New York. So I got some skin in the game being a New York State resident. I live upstate, way away from New York City. So let's check out what Kellyanne has to say, and I'll comment along the way.
Kellyanne, while we have you, can we get your take on the loss for the Republicans last night in that New York 3 special election? Would Mazi Pilip be a good candidate to run again, since that has to happen again this November?
She would be a good candidate to run, Dana, if a couple things happen. If A, she stops being wishy-washy on where she is on the leader of the party and the presumptive nominee, Donald Trump. If she wants to distance herself from him, she can. If she wants to embrace him, she can. But when you sit in the middle of the highway, you become political roadkill. And
no, it's funny. Give you an idea at a local level, I was a council member in upstate New York for 8 years in the early 2000s. And somebody told me when I first got elected that it's funny how things work. If you don't take sides on an issue, or in this case, Donald Trump, if you don't take sides, somebody will take sides for you. And it's very rarely the side you would have picked. So you've got to pick one. Trump's a polarizing guy. I get it. But she's an amazing candidate. She really is. Her background is just amazing. Go look it up, like you'll see Kellyanne will say later. And she gives us some suggestions on what they did wrong. Let's listen.
And these people who are told by their consultants, distance yourself from Trump, and then Trump somehow is to blame for it. You know what? Take advantage of the fact that he's going to have great enthusiasm, energy, dollars that can redound to the benefit of other candidates. Also, I love that she's a Republican. She has an amazing biography. We all know it. Those who don't know can pull it. But let me say this. If a bunch of guys are going to make you the nominee, they can't then hide you. She was constantly being sandwiched and bookended by these guys and hidden. The New York Times reported that Mazi Pilip had no one on her payroll. You have to run a real grown-up campaign.
No one on her payroll. What is with the Republican Party? Is this why, one of the 1,000 reasons why they want to get rid of Ronna McDaniel as the RNC chair? Yeah, this should have been concentrated on. Because this is about PR value more than it is about the seat, even though the majority of the Republicans in the House, the majority is so close that every seat counts. This is ridiculous. Look at the impeachment of Secretary Mayorkas. It was 214 to 213. Don't get much closer than that. And gives you an idea. Is Ronna McDaniel so busy, worried about keeping her job as the RNC chair that she lets stuff like this slip through the cracks? This was important for PR value. If the Republican had won, it would be all over the place. And believe me, the Democrats are making all kinds of noise about this. This is what's to come. The Republicans don't know, which is nonsense, but it looks great. It looks great. The mainstream media, they didn't tell you the fact that the person that won was a guy that had the seat before. So he was really well known in the new district, even though they've been gerrymandered here in upstate New York to death. And it's just amazing to me. Let's listen on.
Suozzi did two things that were smart the Republicans better learn from. Number one, early voting. He killed it by 2-1, I think, in Queens and by 16% in Nassau County or vice versa. The weather yesterday in New York, where all three of us were, proves that this bank your vote early, getting that early vote and making Republican voters comfortable, center-right voters comfortable with voting early is incredibly important. Number two.
Yeah, that's the thing. Conservative people don't like early voting. They're used to voting on Election Day. Now, New York has just changed it. Now you can vote by mail. A judge just approved it when a court case was up, that you can vote by mail for any reason. Doesn't have to be you're out of town or you're disabled or you're sick or whatever the reason was in the past. Now you can just request an absentee for any reason at all. Now, not everybody gets an absentee in New York State, but there's going to be tons of requests, believe me. And you're just going to have to embrace it because we live in New York State. It's behind a huge red curtain, just like California. And you're going to have to learn how to win within the rules of the state, even though you hate them. Get people out early to vote. She's absolutely right. Whether you embrace that or not, that is the reality of New York State.
Suozzi, instead of lying like every other Democrat seems to be doing these days, Mayorkas is doing a great job. There's no crisis at the border. The borders are, Kamala's wonderful. Biden's right. What did he do? He said, I better go against my party on the border. And he did it. Paid advertising, mailers, press conferences, public appeals.
Now, here's the thing. He was against what Biden's doing at the border because it did him well in the special election. Come this November, will he do the same? And even more importantly, if he wins the general election this November and holds on to the seat for the Democrats, he'll just turn around and do what the Democrats want. And that seems to be the case more than anything. That's the problem. People aren't held accountable. If you're a progressive Democrat and you see this is a more moderate type, or at least he sounds more like a moderate type, you'll vote for him because there's a D in front of his name. And if he breaks his word and you consider that a major issue, you don't care because the Democrats have a good chance to control the House again. So lying to make it so you win is never punished if you're a Democrat.
So he has shown the Democrats how to run on the border. I think the Republicans should do the same thing with abortion. Instead of being ostriches and pretending with their head in the sand, they should be peacocks and say, look, this is what it means to be pro-life in 2024. This is what it means to be pro-choice in 2024. And instead of hiding, own it and message it. I think he did a great job on that, going against his party. Let's see how many Democrats follow suit.
So there you have it. Excellent advice from Kellyanne Conway. Whether how you feel about her and her support for Donald Trump is a different issue entirely. She was a great candidate. The Republican was a great candidate, checks all the boxes. But here's the thing. The Democrats say, we care about if it's a woman. We care about if it's minority. We care about if it's an immigrant. They only care about it when they're a Democrat, and she's a Republican. So you notice the Democrats didn't flock to her because of her race, her gender, or her migrant status. And that's the hypocrisy of the Democrats. If things had been reversed, and she was the Democrat, she would have got 65%. And that's the way the Democrats roll. They talk a good game, but all they care about is power and control. Will the new, I hope, new RNC chair learn from these mistakes? I know Kellyanne Conway probably has the ear of them because she's pretty high up in the food chain when it comes to Republicans. We're going to have to see. It's probably going to be a remake. Can they learn from their enemies? Enemies being rivals. We're going to have to see. The Republicans are going to have to learn how to adapt to places like New York, California, Illinois, and other states where they have very early voting and very liberal mail-in ballots. You're just going to have to try to beat them at their own game. We're going to have to see if it works. Until the next time, God bless, goodbye, and good luck.